kind of share some updates related to our focus groups and to the survey that was distributed. So the last time we talked about the survey, we had a few responses, but we've since had 46 responses, which is really great. So I wanted to just briefly share some updates from the survey, and then ask you all a few questions related to your own experience. As you know, that we have gone out to several of your locations to have focus groups with the students, and we wanted to take the time today to talk to you all about your particular experience working with employers, the youth, and then just overall kind of administrative questions. But I'm going to share my screen now. Can you all see my PowerPoint?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So as I mentioned, we had 46 responses, and just kind of quickly zooming through these charts, you can see that the majority, or at least the plurality of the young adults in the program are between 20 and 22. So you're not having to navigate some of the issues necessarily that are particular to minors, but just wanted to show some demographic breakdown, as well as most of your students or young adults have high school diplomas. So almost 70% have high school diplomas, which is great. That can help them translate into the workforce quicker. You have mostly male, so almost 70% of your clients are male. Again, that's usually because of the industries that you all are working in, but it's also an opportunity for either future enrollment or later down the road to identify how you could potentially recruit individuals into your programs that are not traditionally represented in the industries that you're working in. So for example, if you're doing construction, identifying ways that you could work with female students or young adults to encourage them to apply as well. The agencies that represented, you all mostly had students reply, but of course I haven't still closed the link to the webinar. So if you do want to get information, or excuse me, link to the survey. So if you do want to get information that's unique to your agency, feel free to have your students respond to the survey, and I can send you over the individualized responses as well. Most of the young adults heard from the program through their peers, and in some of the focus groups that I attended or conducted with some of your clients, the young adults were sharing that they were like, well, I think this program should be even more advertised to us, because we didn't hear about it. If it weren't for my friends that I kind of happened to talk to, we wouldn't have heard about it. Peer-to-peer sharing and marketing and recruitment is really kind of the most popular way of getting young adults engaged in workforce development programs. But if you are having some trouble recruiting clients, then maybe offering some type of incentive to your clients that you currently work with to recruit a friend might be a helpful way of getting some more people enrolled into your program. The top 3 reasons that they joined. Although we at Invincibles often say that pay is something that you want to advertise heavily when you are trying to recruit young adults into workforce development programs, I would continue with that message, but you can see that interest in the job or the field was the primary reason that individuals joined your workforce development programs and career pathway programs. So I think that is something in future marketing materials, or again, if you're continuing to do some recruitment, that you might want to emphasize, why this field pays well, or why this is a field that might be interesting for some of the young adults who are still at a point in their life where they're trying to identify what their next steps are. They also recognize skill development as kind of the second reason that they wanted to join the programs, and even in the focus groups, many of the young adults identified the opportunity to get that hands-on experience as one of the most valuable aspects of the program. So as Tara mentioned at the start of the call, almost all either agree or strongly agree that they feel that you all have prepared them well to begin their job or their kind of on-the-job experience. So that's a kudos to all of you. And they also say that they have felt generally supported and have received guidance from their host agencies. Now, their employers just had a little bit bigger of a range of responses in terms of they felt like they have received good support and guidance. So in just a few moments, when I ask you all questions about your experience with employer engagement and retention, I wanted to kind of dive into this information a little bit deeper so that we could understand maybe how to help support employers more in their interactions with the young adults that are in your program. So the biggest challenge for remaining successful in the program, a lot of students actually, or young adults, said that they don't have any challenges, which is great to hear. In some of our focus groups, we also talked about how that might also be just kind of a sign of pride, and that's great to encourage them to feel resourceful, but we also want to make sure that we're providing the space and opportunity for them to identify what potential areas they might have some struggles with. But for those that did admit to some barriers, transportation and then just balancing work-life responsibilities were two of the biggest challenges. Some of the students or young adults, and you all probably know this, are not only working on the job sites that are provided through your programs, but they also have second jobs and or have childcare responsibilities either through their own children or sometimes through younger siblings. So that is something to keep in mind, that when you are asking them at the beginning of the program, I heard Tara mention that, if you're having trouble tracking down folks, really identifying what it is that their challenges are and or how they are planning to get to work can be really helpful for helping you to identify, one, if they're right for the program, and two, if there are ways that you can support them if they do choose to enroll. Most of them are, with the exception of I think one student, is very likely to complete the program, so that is good news. They're really enthusiastic about thinking that this program is going to help them gain a well-paying job in the future. So seems like it's a fruitful response, and in some of the qualitative answers to the questions of one thing they really like about the program is that they do feel like it is doing just what the title of the program says, that they are preparing them for career pathways and not just kind of random jobs. So I wanted to pause there before we dive into kind of the questions that I have for you all. Are there any questions outstanding about the survey responses? Okay. So let's move into the focus group questions. So again, this was designed so that we can identify how the CEO can help support you all and have a successful program. So I know there are some challenges and opportunities and some successes working with employers, and wanted to spend the first few moments talking about that. So I have kind of a list of the participants that sound like they are on the call. So the first question is going to be kind of a round robin, where I'll ask each of you to provide a response, kind of a brief response, and then we'll dive into some questions that you can feel free to answer, according to your desire to participate in it. So the first question is, how often do you communicate with your employer partners, and how would you like the frequency of your communication to change, if at all? So skills, I'll start with you all for who's representing skills today. How would you rate your kind of communication with your employer partners?
Hi, this is Paul. Overall, we have like a regular communication with the employer partners as a whole. Being a business intermediary, we're regularly reaching out to them. And communicating on any updates for any of the clients that we have in our programs, or any issues that we have, and so it's just a regular one. But also we do have Tennille here as well, and she might be able to add some more information and some more clarity specific to the program. Tennille, do you want to answer that?
Sure. So our main employer is decentralized, so that will create challenges and a little bit because they're in several different locations. So we actually have bi-weekly calls with our corporate partners, the ones that help us design the program. And then we also have our program manager that has a bi-weekly rotating call with the different managers of the locations that the different participants are at. So we try to have as regular communication as possible, as well as we have an escalation plan so that if anything does come up, if we get feedback during professional development or anything like that, we actually can reach out directly to the managers or to the owner-operators, depending on the severity of the escalation.
Great, thank you. And Tara, if you have any follow-up, or DCO staff, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to ask as well. Would you say that the responsiveness overall from your employers has been kind of acceptable, or would you like to see that change in any way?
So I think the biggest challenge for us is just resources with the amount of different locations that we have. So the further we grow the program, they could be in 14 to 20 locations. So that's 14 to 20 different phone calls to get information on one individual. And unfortunately, because of the organization, it is decentralized. They are individual owner operators. So it's like having 20 different employers, not just one main point of contact, because they all are independently owned and operated. So that I would say that's the only challenge. We love the opportunity that there's that many locations for our participants to choose from, so they can be as close to or as far away from home as they want to be. But it does add challenges. Because there isn't just one point of contact that we can get, performance updates or anything like that from one individual. So we have those rotating calls to try and alleviate that.
And I wanted to make sure that everybody was completing those pre-employment outline checklist, that everybody has been out to the job sites prior to the students and you've uploaded that in the Illinois WorkNet. Those have to be completed for each person. So if you have not gotten that done, you got to get that done. I can give everybody today like a 2-week get it done, and then we're going to check in the system to make sure, because we have to have that done for all youth. And you guys should be keeping up with what locations, like you were saying, Tennille, you have lots of locations, but we should know that James is at location whatever, 63rd, 6300 South, whatever, Allen Street or something like that. So everybody should know where their kids are, and you should also have those the form signed before you put any youth, the checklist, before you put any youth actually on the job site. Okay.
Great. And so Metropolitan, for our representative from Metropolitan Family Services, if you're on, how often do you all communicate with your employer partners, and would you like to see that change, if at all?
Yeah, we are kind of in the works of putting together a more formalized system for communicating with employer partners. Our students are still going through the program at this time. So it's been great to hear from everyone else what they utilize.
Great. Okay, and Asian Human Services?
Hi, yeah. Actually, our partners are right across in the building across the street from us. So we talk to them pretty regularly. For the sites where our clients are at classes, the case managers do kind of like bi-weekly visits with them at their training site, because there's 3 different locations they have classes. And then we have the 2 people getting ready for work experience. Our Demira talks to that provider regularly, also because we have another program with them where we have other clients there, so they're in pretty regular communication.
Okay. And so the employer partner, it sounds like, has been pretty responsive to requests for communication.
It's not the greatest. We actually have a meeting today to kind of go over some things, but they are responsive. I think we're just going to talk about today kind of some issues that we've had and better ways to handle them.
Okay.
That would be a great time, since you guys are already going. I don't know if you're going over there, but that would be also a great time for you to go ahead and do that check while you're there, to make sure that the site is safe.
I can't really hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Perfect. I was saying, since I don't know if you're going to them for the meeting or they're coming to you guys.
Yeah, we're going over there.
That would be a great time to go ahead and do that checklist while you're there, since you only have 2 students starting, and just make sure the work environment is safe for them.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. The Erie House?
Yes.
Okay. Same question. How often are you communicating with your employer partners, and would you like to see it change?
I don't directly communicate with the employer partners. That's on our administration side. And I mean, I guess they do as often as they need to. I don't know. I don't know yet.
Okay.
So Patty, make sure you get with them though, because you guys are really Paloma. Remind her to attend these meetings as well, because the grant manager has to be involved with that. and they have to, because she's kind of like the person that is overseeing the entire project. So just let her
Okay.
know that she should know what employers you guys have, what's the relationship, and things you're working on, and that she needs to attend these meetings on Wednesday as well.
Okay, I'm writing it down. Okay.
All right, thank you. And OAI, how often are you communicating with your employer partners, and would you like to see it change?
Hi, this is Don. We have a separate section of the organization that sets up communicates with employers, sets up the internship locations, helps design the programs. I meet with them. We have Thursday morning sessions and ad hoc sessions to discuss how our individual interns are, this particular program's interns are doing once they are placed, but also so that we know what's working well, what some of the new requirements might be, and so forth, who some of the new industry partners might be. We've also set up, OAI created a regional manufacturing employer organization that we regularly attend and get feedback from local employers on what aspects of the program are working and what aren't.
Okay. Great, thank you. Peoria Public School?
I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I was just going to Peoria next.
Oh, yeah.
Hi. Oh, yeah. Hi, this is Sarah Chapman with Peoria.
Hi, sir.
We have a great communication with all of our local employers for our students in school youth, and we provide like a orientation for all the training for all of the employers before the students start, where we go over a binder of expectations and have all parties sign a training agreement, and then throughout the students' work-based learning internship, we do weekly check-ins with the employer via like an email or a phone call, and then we also go out to see the student while they're there twice throughout the semester.
Great. Okay.
So yes, that's working well.
Okay. And so how many employers do you have involved in the program?
This past semester we had 11,
Okay.
but we're hoping to double that for our new group coming in August for our next class of 2020.
And you guys already did the checklist and everything for those students, Sarah?
Well, we signed the training agreement that has all the expectations laid out. So I didn't know if that could count, or if you need, like, if we could use our own document from the district, or if we need to use your document. Okay.
Does it say like it's a safe and work environment, and you guys have actually been out to the sites and that stuff?
Yes, because we hold all of those trainings like at the work site.
Okay, make sure you upload that in Illinois WorkNet for each of those students.
Okay.
Okay, and then I'm not sure if somebody from BCS is on, but if so, I would love to hear your feedback as well.
They're not on.
They're not on, okay. All right, well, thank you all for kind of doing that round robin. I'll open it up now for just kind of participation at will, unless we have silence, and then we might do some victims or volunteers. So the next question that I have is just kind of overall challenges working with employers that you might have. So have there been any challenges for you all related to recruitment of employers, engagement, and or retention? And if so, would love to hear about that.
The awkward silence.
Right.
So everything's going well, like you feel like the businesses they're adequate, they communicate with you guys, the youth are happy. Have your youth expressed any issues that they've had on the job sites, and is it anything that you've helped youth out with just to kind of navigate maybe like work, just work relationships and things like that?
Mm-hmm. And again, this is to not penalize you at all. This is so that we can help support you as you are continuing to work with employers. So it sounded like, I know OEI, you said that you have a regular manufacturing employer kind of organization where you do get some feedback from employers about what is and is not working. Can you share a little bit more about some of the things that they might have highlighted that aren't necessarily working for them?
This is Sarah from Peoria Public Schools. I could share.
Okay, great.
Some of our youth, you know, being that they're 17, 18 years old, are working on those soft skills of, you know, speaking up when they don't understand something, or having to reach out to maybe like a site supervisor as opposed to like the business owner that we first met with, you know, when they did kind of like their introduction interview. Now they're being reassigned to like a site supervisor or laborer at different work sites. So just helping the youth like navigate how to communicate with their boss, and, you know, checking in maybe the night before or the morning of, you know, which job site are you having to go to today, and just helping them with those soft skills and communication.
Okay, great. And have the employers kind of highlighted when they've had issues with some of those soft skills gaps that the students might have?
Yes, and that comes in those weekly check-ins. You know, how did the youth do this week, and, you know, maybe they struggled with this issue or that, or we also have the employers fill out an evaluation with 10 different areas of skills, you know, whether they be actual technical skills or soft skills, so that we can look for room for improvement and maybe what we can be working on in the classroom.
Oh, that's perfect.
That's great. And it sounds like many of you have kind of a good feedback loop for employers to share with you some of the concerns that they might have with the students. But I'm curious as well to hear for the clients that you work with, for the students and young adults, if they have a potentially negative experience at work, how do you address that with the employers? It sounds like Skills has kind of a very systemized way of having an escalation plan to help get in contact with the employers. For others in the group, how have you addressed any challenges that students have faced? For example, if they feel discriminated against, or if they feel like they aren't being treated fairly.
All right. Awkward silence again.
Okay. So I'll kind of go down the list. So Metropolitan, have you had any issues with students who have come back and said, I've had a negative experience? And if so, how did you address that with the employer?
Sure. So I hate to play the new person card, but I've actually only been on staff for a couple of months. So I'm definitely not the expert in this realm. And as far as I know, you know, we're finishing our first cohort at this time, so we're just stepping into that employment phase. So we haven't had any students really on the job site besides field work that our education partner had set up where they were doing field work. So we will definitely be stepping into that realm soon, but I personally have not been a part of that process yet.
Okay.
And I did send out, just so everyone knows, Section 188 to everyone. Please read that or get familiar with it. I sent you guys kind of like the Cliff Notes, and then I sent you the long, just in case anybody got really intrigued by it. But because we are actually the people that are either choosing the employers or we're working very closely with the employers, it's very important that we understand Section 188 and make sure that students feel safe in their work environment. Make sure that they, kind of what Morgan is talking about, if there's any issues of discrimination or anything like that, making sure you guys are documenting that well in the case notes, and making sure you also are documenting the steps that you guys have taken to alleviate that, whether that's removing the student from the site, having a meeting with the student and management to kind of, you know, see if you can salvage the relationship. So anything like that, make sure you are documenting that, because you want to just make sure you're covering yourselves, especially because we are the employer you guys are the employer of record. So you want to make sure that you are definitely covering yourselves with that and familiar with Section 188.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like some of you all are, you're at different stages in your relationships with employers, which is perfectly understandable. So for those organizations like OAI or Erie House that are in the earlier stages of having your internship start maybe in the fall, have you run into any obstacles yet with employer engagement and just kind of getting them on board?
Well, this is OAI. We have a roster of about 50 local manufacturing employers that participate in that regional organization that I mentioned and regularly hire from our internship program. So we usually don't have an issue finding sufficient internship placement sites as the internships begin from one quarter to another or 1 year to another. Usually from that roster, we were able to find sufficient spots.
Okay, great, thank you.
I just want to know how are agencies going to get employers to stay engaged? So right now, a lot of your grants are paying for that work experience. How does that look once that funding is gone? Are the employers still going to be engaged with the youth, or are you finding that a lot of employers are on board for this temporary work experience, and then once that's done, once the funding's gone, then they're kind of done with the experience with the youth? How does that look at each agency?
I'm not sure what exactly you're referencing, Tara, but yeah, the employers that we work with are committed to permanent employment for the interns that they get. If you're asking whether these sorts of programs are valuable to them and they would support them once, say, DCEO's funding is gone, that I'm not sure about.
Okay. No, that's it. I mean, if they're saying I'm committed to keeping them on permanently, that's the ultimate goal of the grant, is for youth to come in. Because we're paying up front for the work experience, it kind of helps employers to not only see the youth, see them in action, see what they can bring to the organization, hopefully like them enough to say, okay, once this work experience is done, I am committed to, keeping you on permanently. Is there any organizations where an employer has just said, hey, I am committed to, and lots of them do this, but I am just committed to the work experience portion of it? And if so, how are you going to make sure your youth has permanent employment once they finish the work experience somewhere else? That's for all groups. You guys are killing us today with the silence. My Lord.
Anybody?
All right, folks.
Okay, well, it sounds like that is, if you don't want to share today, it's still definitely a point of discussion to have, either when you complete those pre-employment checklists or in your ongoing communication with the employer partners. It's an opportunity to assess just their kind of level of satisfaction with the clients and young adults that they're working with so far. And then if they are kind of giving rave reviews and they haven't had too many issues outside of kind of normal expectation of age-appropriate behavior in the workplace, then that might be an opportunity to push them a little bit and share with them that the goal of the grant is to have this be kind of an initial pilot so that they can experience the students with some financial support, but then once they have proven themselves, that this is an opportunity to translate into long-term and permanent employment. One final question, just kind of taking a look at the time. So potentially final question that I have is, have you all trained mentors at your employer site? So I know that some of the organizations have recruited mentors not only outside of the employers themselves, but within the employer agency. So wanted to kind of get a feel for what mentorship looks like at the various sites. So I'll open it up at first, and if not, we can kind of do that round robin style from the beginning as well.
This is Sarah from Peoria again. I can say that some of our employers, and I'm fairly new too, I just started this work in January, but in the 6 months I've been with the school district and working with these employers, I know that some of them are long-term employers that we've used in the past, and so I don't feel that they would need like a trained mentor, but for some of the new ones, I think that's a great idea if we could kind of enhance our orientation or training a little bit to make sure that not only the business owner who kind of signs and agrees to take on a student, but maybe that site supervisor or foreman, you know, have a little bit of training in how to mentor a young person who's 17 coming in with, you know, eagerness, but really no hands-on skills or experience. So I really like that idea.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Are there others that have a mentor training program for their employer partners or would be interested in that?
This is Tina from Skills. I think it's something we'd definitely be interested in it, not just with this employer, but with other employers that we work with. The internal mentor, we're seeing that has an incredible value to help with some of those things you were talking about before, you know, just navigating the workplace, handling conflict, things like that. Because an external mentor can handle that work-life balance and things like that. But when it comes to the culture inside a location or in a department, it's really helpful to have an internal mentor that knows that culture and can help them navigate it quickly and professionally. We have not been incredibly successful with onboarding, and we'll have some great mentors and then some not so great mentors. And I think it also has to do with the candidate and their engagement with that mentor. But we would definitely be open to any sort of training for internal mentors.
Okay, great.
So do you, in the instance that you find out just that a mentor and like one of your clients just, you know, just they don't mesh for whatever reason, do you move them to another mentor? Do they just complete the program without a mentor? How does that look, or what are your action steps for that?
So that really it's a challenge, because it's not usually a matter of just not meshing. It's a matter of not either one side or the other not meeting the requirements of how many times they need to meet, having that face-to-face, and it's developing that relationship. So the candidates they have no interest in talking to an internal mentor. It's just one more thing they have to do unless they've developed that relationship. And so as fast as these programs move, you don't always have that time to find the right mentor. And it's also how there's a lot of complications within the employee workspace. How do you hold internal mentors accountable? Because also, how do you then also give them some sort of, like, how do you reward them for being a mentor, right? It's work. It's a whole other part of their job. And so what kind of compensation? And then when you get into compensation, you have union rules and things like that can happen for an internal mentor. So based on employer partner, it has to be very different depending on their internal HR structure. When we've seen it be successful, it's been amazingly successful. The other thing you have to worry about is decentralized employers. So do you want that internal mentor on site? Because then you run out of maybe people that can be internal mentors, or do you want them to be external? And the problem with them being at different sites is the culture is not always the same. Although you may be the same corporation, the culture in stores may not be the same. And then it's also the amount of touch points. The more touch points you have, the more you build that. And interestingly enough, we've also seen some, not this program, but other programs where the internal mentor was actually someone in corporate whose responsibility was this program. And so, for lack of a better term, they had skin in the game, right? Because they wanted the program to be successful. And so it was a very small program, but that seemed to be pretty successful, because if they heard something, if there was a complaint made or they were talking about something, they could go right down to the department and have a conversation with that manager and be able to talk it through. But that doesn't work in every employer situation either.
Mhm. Thank you. That's really helpful feedback. So it sounds like, from at least Peoria and Skills and potentially others, that some support around mentors and helping them want to feel accountable to the students that they have either been assigned or have volunteered to support would be, that training would be helpful. So we do have 5 more minutes, so I just wanted to close with another round robin of short response to the question of what challenges did you not expect when you signed up to be a Youth Career Pathways grantee, and what rewards have helped deepen your commitment? So we'll go backwards this time. So Peoria Public Schools, your response to that question is appreciated.
Okay, yeah, this is Sarah. Gosh, I have to think on this a little bit. I guess maybe just navigating all of the pieces of the puzzle, like the case management with the youth. I think I'm sure it's the same for everybody. Has just been a challenge because of a lot of their home lives and their inexperience and lack of transportation and all those barriers. So working on that piece, as well as forming the relationships with all the employers since I was new, and just making it all work together has been challenging. But it's, at the same time, it's been really rewarding when you get to the end of the semester. And probably the biggest reward for me was seeing 2 of our students receive full-time job offers after they graduated as a result of a great internship experience. So knowing that those kids, aren't going to be working at McDonald's or Walmart, for the foreseeable future, that they gain skills and experience that can jumpstart a career for them at 18 years old. So that's been really rewarding for me.
Yeah, and make sure you guys are keeping, that sparked something in me. Make sure, if you guys have a really great success story, make sure you're keeping a track of that client or their situation, and maybe do a paragraph or something just to keep, because I know at the end of these grants, we always ask for a couple examples of success stories, and sometimes it's hard to think of them right on the spot, but as they're happening, if you could keep a track of that. Also, make sure any jobs you're getting for these youth are in the same sector that they got their training in. That's where we have to make sure we're trying to strive for that as much as possible. In instances where you can't do that, please let us know. But our preference is that we can show our management team we trained them in construction or welding or whatever, and look, they actually got a job in construction or welding. So please make sure you're linking the jobs that they get with the training that they received. Okay, sorry.
No, no problem. OAI.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you, Sarah. Is it Dan from OAI? What have been your challenges or your challenges you did not expect and rewards that you have?
Hi, yeah, Don from OAI. Boy, there are some internal challenges, I guess, of navigating I-wins and I-wins. But as far as the participants is concerned, it's some of the challenges are convincing them that this is a viable pathway for them, and committing to it despite some of the barriers that they are facing. You wish the best for them, and sometimes they don't see it as clearly, or they see it differently than we do. So that's been part of the challenge. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Erie, how?
Us too, like what OAI said, it's just like, letting them, like, not convincing them, but showing them that, yeah, this is a good career. You can be successful, in doing this, because sometimes they don't understand, a lot of, what it means. And we're doing our best, just, giving them, examples, explanations, and just showing them that there are plenty of opportunities in this field.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I do want to recognize we have 1 more minute. So if AHS, Metropolitan, or Skills would like to share either unexpected challenges that can help us identify how to support you better, or just a reward or success story that you want to close on. Okay, well, I appreciate your time. This is, again, we're going to do a report for the end of the year that will allow us to kind of consolidate what we've learned from all of you as grantees and as well as the participants themselves. So I appreciate your feedback today, and we'll look forward to continuing to work with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Morgan, for your time. If anybody has any follow-up information they would like to give to Morgan for that report, please let us know. She did email you guys, so you have her contact information. And if there's any additional questions or anything, please let Tammy or myself know. Like she was saying, the main point of the report is for us to identify any ways that the state can assist any future grantees. So if there's anything that you guys can think about or what you would tell yourself as starting off these grants, please let us know, because that information is valuable. So you are the first group that we actually did the 2-day training back in October. I think it was a 2-day or a 3-day training. I believe it's 2. Back in October. So please let us know first if that was even helpful. And also let us know if the Wednesday calls are helpful, or the Wednesday webinars. We do want constructive criticism. So if you say, hey, maybe every other week or something like that would be great. But just let us know any feedback that you have regarding just the entire program and how we can make it better for future grantees. If there's nothing else, I did send everybody the reminder of the quarterly reports. Like I said, they're due at the end of the month. If you have any questions, give me a call. We're here, or give Tammy a call. Anybody have anything else that they want to talk about before we get off? All right, we will see you guys next week. Make sure you're updating the system that we talked about. If you have anybody, make sure you're filling out those forms for any job sites and uploading those to Illinois WorkNet, and then let us know if you have any additional questions. Morgan, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
All right, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Where did that go? Join.